Hey folks, this is Rant and Fury with another episode of Boondock Gourmet. Today is a recipe that I'm sharing with you, even though it's not usually the time of year that holds the meaning, but when I was a kid growing up, my grandmother used to make a baked turkey for Thanksgiving like a lot of people's parents and grandparents did. All my uncles, aunts come over, everybody to eat, but since me and Mom lived with my grandmother, she was the one that mainly cooked for the house and mainly where I got my skills. We would eat turkey for about 3 or 4 days after Thanksgiving until we got burnt out. And instead of throwing it away, she would take a carcass of it. This is a chicken, by the way. After it had been picked down, freeze it. Then about halfway through December, but right before Christmas, she would take the carcass out, put in a pot, and boil the meat off the bones and make what she called turkey soup. It is going to be the exact same principle here. This is a rotisserie chicken. In times past, I would take a baked chicken that I made myself, and I'm going to make one for Thanksgiving because I live by myself. No use to bake a whole turkey for just little old me. I'm going to boil the meat off the bones and separate the meat from as many bones as we can pick out of the broth. Then while I'm off camera, I'm going to chop up celery, onions, put a little bit of salt. You don't have to do it now because right now we're extracting the meat, the gelatins from the fats and the cartilage, and the flavor out of the skeleton of the chicken. A few years back, a couple days before my dad passed away from prostate cancer, I saw him on Thanksgiving Day. He was unresponsive. I knew that he was transitioning over, and I got the call to confirm that later that evening. I was living in a space that wasn't great with an ex-girlfriend at the time, but as a thank you to the Lord, I baked a chicken for Thanksgiving dinner that day, and kept the carcass just like I did this one to make soup out of like my grandmother did. So let me get a few things started and I'll tell you a little bit more about the technique. Okay, I'm back. I've filled the pot up to almost to the top of the chicken. I'm going to turn this on 5 out of 8, then the high afterwards, and let it work for about an hour or so. And what that does is the heat slowly breaks down the fats, the cartilage, and everything else. I'm going to leave the skin in the pot for a little extra flavor and to get a little more of the fats out of it. Even though my grandmother showed me how to do the turkey soup, there was a guy on PBS called Jeff Smith. He was the Frugal Gourmet back during the early to mid 80s, and I'd watch him on Sunday mornings, and he basically said the key to making a good broth is boil the bones so long your dog doesn't even want to touch it. Well, I'm not feeding these bones to any of the local animals, not even the ones I dislike, because chicken bones real hollow, shatter real easy. They'll probably end up getting choked and dying on one. I don't want that, not even on the ones I don't like. I'm using 2 bowls this morning. I'm going to be picking out the meat with my tongs and my fork, and any liquid that mixed through the strainer is going to go in that one bowl. I'll add it back. After I do that, I'll chop up the celery, the onions. Later on, I'll show you what you can add in for bulking it up a little bit. I'm also going to be putting some boneless and skinless chicken thighs to add a little more meat to it, because this is going to have to last a couple days. Start a new job tomorrow evening, working graveyard shift, so I won't have much time to cook for a few days until my sleep schedule stabilizes, but I'll show you the basics of it and we can go from there. Be back in probably about an hour or so when I check and see how everything is holding together or isn't holding together with the carcass. See you, folks. Okay, folks, it's been a little while since I put the chicken in the pot with the water. Water's reduced a little bit. I've turned the heat down to keep from steaming up the camera quite so much. Right now I'm using the fork to test the chicken, make sure it's loose enough to come off the carcass itself. Now, even after you pick everything off the bone and what have you, you're still going to have bones in the soup, because you're not going to get all of them, unfortunately. So, and most of them real small ones, you'll just be feeling around whenever you get a bite of the soup and feel something. It's like, okay, time to have a napkin ready, that way you can put any of the bones that you accidentally leave back into the, or just remove them and have them to the side until you can get them to the trash can or other receptacle that you're going to use. Alright, now I was going to get my other bowl to put the chicken in after I get it off the bone itself. Got a rather large bone right here. Or actually, I'm going to put you can do it one way. You can put the bones in the bowl, or you can keep the bones in the strainer while you pick through them. This is probably the most time-consuming part of actual labor when it comes to the making the soup and the broth. Okay. And it's a little uncomfortable sometimes whenever you get a hold of a really hot piece of chicken and you get a tad bit of scald, but this technique makes probably the best tasting soup, and it's, to be honest, it is a poor person's type of recipe, because you're using the last little bit of a previous meal, which was one of the key parts of my grandmother's thinking whenever she turned turkey leftovers into turkey soup. Okay, oh, that's good meat. She was born early 1920s, before the stock market crash, so she experienced hard times from an early age. At one point, she moved from Appalachia up to New Jersey, started a second family. She had a first one. I had a couple uncles I kept in touch with, but like everything else, people die and pass on, so I didn't really get to learn much about my grandmother's history from them at that point. She also, during the 1960s, around the local area, ran a restaurant. And my previous landlord, who passed away 2 years ago, remembered the restaurant. He even suggested I go into cooking as a career, and I'm like, I don't know about that. I enjoy cooking as a hobby more than anything else. Plus, feeding my face. So, I'm going to let that bone cool just a hair more. Now I'm getting into the bones that, the smaller bones that may give me a fit later on. A lot of them is like the neck bones, the spine, the, I guess you would call it the ones that connect your shoulder to your neck and chest area in the front. I forget. Dinged them up a lot of times myself, so collarbones. Now, one reason why I'm using the screen to pick the meat off is any juice that settles in this bowl will be added back to the mixture, because waste not, want not. Here's some more of the chicken rib cage. Not a lot of meat on it, but enough. And some people do this and make a chicken salad out of what they pick off the carcass. I'm not much on mayonnaise-based dishes, especially with the hot weather we have in the south. And usually chicken salad gets seasoned in a way that my tastes don't particularly care for. I hate to say it, I'm kind of a picky eater. Some people accuse me of not being a southerner because I don't do egg salad or potato salad, which isn't entirely true. I found the vinegar-based German-style potato salad back in May on my trip to Helen, Georgia. Posted some of the videos from that trip. And one day I'll make my version of the German potato salad and show everybody. I like it because it's got flavor. The vinegar also retards some of the bacteria that will grow in the food. If you've ever been sick off of mayonnaise before, it takes a while to regain your trust as far as that goes, especially when you've done the gastrointestinal equivalent of an exorcism. Also, don't do standard coleslaw. I do the vinegar-based coleslaw. Exact same reason. I just don't like the taste of Duke's mayonnaise. People are going to tar and feather me in the comments. It's just the way I am. Now, I do like a hard-boiled egg and bacon sandwich with Miracle Whip. I made my deviled eggs back last Thanksgiving. First attempt at them with Miracle Whip. Daughter absolutely hated them because she was raised a Duke's girl. She'll pull for the UNC basketball team, but the only Duke she likes is the mayonnaise, so go figure. Me and her grandfather was Duke fans. March Madness come around, which was like one of the religious times of the year for the South. I used to joke, and it's not too far of a stretch, that Southerners have two religions. The one you go to church on Sunday, and the one you come home to watch college sports. Whether you went to school or not, everybody watched the March Madness. And your college football, especially around the holiday season. And if you had more than a certain amount of folks from a different college group watching, the trash talk got to be rather unholy. Oh, this is going to be a shoulder blade or for the leg. And I'll pick back through this sift full of meat and chunks. I'll get a grocery bag in a little bit, like I do with vegetable scraps. Put the bones in carefully. Now I'm just going through. Hit a bone right there. And this is the careful work, because you're salvaging what's left of a previous dinner. Some people may say me freezing the carcass for a few weeks may damage the taste of the chicken. Well, it's just the surface taste, actually, because the flavor that I extracted comes from the bones and the fats. The meat is pretty much just the protein part of the dish. Got a little bit of liquid back. Before I bring the vegetables back to boil, I'll add a little bit of water, because they will take a little bit of time to cook. Here's a good piece of fat. This may not be the most heart healthy chicken dish there is. But if you're a poor person and you gotta stretch out your money, this is a good way to get one extra meal out of a bird. Okay, I think the rocking was getting on my bloody nerves. This is part of the spinal column here. You have to be careful with it when you pick it, because it will come apart because you've broke down the connecting tissues between the spinal column. This was the wishbone. Piece of cartilage. There's probably enough of that in there. This is one of the tiny bones I was talking about earlier you have to be careful with. Let's see, here we go. Okay, a little more cartilage. You will be pleased if you try this recipe and with the results, even though I know it's been taking a while for me to get the meat off the bone. I'm going to end up chopping the vegetables first. I'm going to chop more than I need and freeze the celery I don't, because if I leave it in the fridge it's going to go bad, because celery is a seasoning and aromatic that I don't use all the time with my dishes. So let me finish this up and I'll show you the chicken and broth before I add the vegetables and the thighs to bulk it up with. Alright, back in a few. Okay folks, I'm back. I've chopped the vegetables up. Now I'm going to start dicing the chicken for the supplemental protein. You don't have to add chicken, but like I said, this is going to have to last me for a few days. And a regular rotisserie chicken, like I just boiled down, could feed about 2 or 3 people for an afternoon on its own when boiled down like that. One key thing is, and reason why I'm doing the chicken cutting after the vegetables, is the salmonella cross-contamination perhaps, which it's all being boiled together, but I was also freezing some of the celery for later. At the moment, I have put a whole onion that was finely diced, a red bell pepper diced up. I've got a cup and a half of the celery from earlier that I diced up and prepared. And in between this and the final shots, I'm going to have to switch the battery out on the camera because it's running a little low. This is probably the better knife when it comes to dicing vegetables, but it's not that great when it comes to meats, but I didn't feel like messing up or dirtying another kitchen implement, because I'm up to 2 bowls, a strainer, a cutting board, and a cast iron French oven. Alright, put that in. Now, got the celery, put it in. I'm going to come back with a little bit of water in this bowl. Be right back. Okay, I'm back. I added a little more water to it. I'm just going to use seasoning salt. There's not much left in this. I'm going to go ahead and add it all. It shouldn't make it too salty. Instead of rice, which is what my grandmother used, I'm going to add some of the German spatzel noodles. And what that'll do is add a little bit of the carbohydrate component to it, and soak up some of the broth in the juice. Alright folks, turn these back on to a 4. And I'm going to let it cook for a while. While that's happening, I'm going to shut the camera down, change out batteries, and get ready for the final plating up, or bowling up in this case, and go from there. Be back. Hey folks, this is the final cut of this episode. The table ready to serve. That's the chicken soup. I did add a couple cans of mushrooms, which is one of my favorite add-ons to make it more of a one and done meal. As you can see, the broth is bright and yellow. The noodles are nice and soft, and the camera just got steamed up. So now you could also add carrots, which I'm not a terribly big fan of, except in stews, and most of the time I have to freeze them, like I did the extra celery and the bell peppers. Just do 2 scoops of this for the time being, and put the lid back on. Now I did put a little bit of salt when I first put the vegetables and stuff in. I may have to go back and add more. Hopefully this will be enough. And you can see from the pot that you can get more than a couple meals out of it. If you use rice instead of noodles, cut back to maybe a half cup or a quarter cup, because the rice is going to be a lot denser in the measuring instrument than the spatzel noodle was. So here we go. Oh yeah, we'll need a little more salt, but you got the onion flavor, you've got the celery. Upstairs dog barking like a moron. Sorry about that, folks. This, to me, is the classic definition of comfort food. It's good on warm, or I mean cold days, wintertime, when you can see your breath. And I vastly added more to it than what you can bare minimally do. Bare minimum, you can do the chicken carcass, you can do the rice, you can do the onions and the celery and the salt. You don't have to add the bell peppers, you don't have to add the mushrooms, you don't have to add fancy noodles. But if you've got noodles or macaroni on hand in bulk, you can go ahead and use that and fill up the bowl for a lot cheaper. Today I used a couple extra chicken thighs that was scant and deboned. Oh my God, that's good. So if you want to get everything but the cluck and the feathers out of a chicken as far as cooking goes, and dang sure not the livers, I hate those bloody things, this is another way you can go about it. It's another meal that's easily digested if you're under the weather. What's the old saying, chicken soup is Jewish penicillin. The steam from it will help open up your airways and get everything back to normal. Well, folks, this was Rant and Fury with another Boondock Gourmet. This was kind of a hybrid of my Nanny Graham's turkey soup with other techniques I've learned over the years. I've mastered it for the most part. Every once in a while I will make a bad batch, but not often. Until then, folks, take care, have a nice day, and I'll be filming and posting on Sundays from now on, because I'm Monday through Friday on a third shift job. So just bear with me. If I don't post during the week, I'm not dead. At least I don't think so. But take care and see you next time.